2014, you suffered a crazy freak injury.
The injury happened because I broke protocol for my training. In Free Solo, there's a quote where Alex Honnold's talking about climbers that have passed away on the mountain. It's never at the threshold of like their ability. That's kind of the same way I was. My left knee was basically every ligament, every tendon, broke my kneecap, 19 surgeries over 4 years. I told people all the time, if I lived to 50, I didn't try hard enough at powerlifting. I was a 350-pound man, gorging myself every meal for performance. You don't live very long at 350 pounds. But that was my mindset. If I lived to 50, I didn't try hard enough. If I lived to 51, I should have been 400 pounds instead of 350 pounds. You know, like that was the way that I thought. But then one day I just realized,
there's a lot of electrolyte supplements out there, so I know you have options, but you don't need to be wasting your time and money on supplements that give delayed results. That's why Protekt Hydration is a superior electrolyte supplement. Since it's a liquid and not a powder, it's ready to work immediately. And since its electrolyte ratios match those lost in sweat, it's designed to do exactly what it's supposed to do. So stop wasting your time with powders and head over to protekt.com/truth and start supplementing like it matters. I'm a dietitian and work with some of the best athletes in the world. These people trust me with their health and performance, and it's up to me to make sure that they're taking advantage of everything they can to be at their best. And I feel the same way when it comes to the general population, because dads, moms, students, physical laborers, and busy professionals all need to do everything they can to perform at their best every single day. That's why I tell everyone I can that a great day starts with a good night's sleep. And when it comes to the best sleep, Tuft and Needle has your back, quite literally. Their state-of-the-art mattresses are designed with adaptive foam to give you the perfect balance of support and comfort, whether you're recovering from a tough workout or just need a restful night to tackle the day ahead. They're so confident you'll love their mattresses that they offer a 100-night sleep trial. So if you're ready to upgrade your sleep, visit tuftandneedle.com and finally wake up feeling energized and ready for the day ahead. So we're here once again at Winter Strong 7. So you might hear knives being made in the background, motorcraft, feral kids running around. That's all part of the Winter Strong experience. But I have Brandon Lilly here, who I'm excited for because Brandon has been a huge inspiration in my life, someone I've looked up to, the person who brought me into the Sorinex family and has been a huge, huge help in my own hunting journey and strength conditioning journey. So it's awesome for me. Brandon, thanks for coming on.
Man, I appreciate it. And yeah, I kind of echo the same thing. You've helped me out with some stuff, probably don't even know, but just some of the nutrition stuff and diet stuff, and just a good dude, good friend. So I appreciate it, man.
I appreciate that. And just to get into some crazy facts, you have raw competition lifts of an 843-pound squat, a bench press of 600 pounds, which is ridiculous, and a deadlift of 816 pounds. And these were all in competition raw.
Those are my competition numbers. I squatted 860 in the gym, maybe a little more than that. And then I benched 610 in the gym and pulled 840 in the gym. And those numbers right there would have given me really what I was chasing most, which was the 2,300 pound total. But that was, success is a sliding scale. When I first started powerlifting, I just wanted to be a guy that could squat 500 pounds, deadlift 500 pounds, and bench 315, So a 1,300 pound total became, I want to hit 1,500, I want to hit 1,700, and so on. But, I'm very proud of my powerlifting looking back on it, because I did it in 5 different weight classes. I did it in multiply gear. I did it raw. I did it with sleeves. I did it with wraps. Like I did is pretty wide ranging scope of what powerlifting is. So I love the sport. I loved feeling the pursuit of strength, being strong. But yeah, I mean, all good things come to an end. But those numbers I'm very proud of. The geared stuff was a little bit different for me because the gear obviously advanced. And for people that don't know, the gear originally began as like an extra safety mechanism. If you wore a bench shirt and you benched 400 pounds, you might be able to bench 420. Oh. You got a little bit of assistance from it because it was just tight, kept the shoulders in place. Deadlift suit didn't give as much. Squat suits, they were just there to catch you, kind of support your hamstrings, your glutes. And then it became like drag racing. Like if you can build it, you can wear it. And and honestly, that's why I went back to the raw lifting. I benched 832 in competition, and it was the easiest bench press that I'd done. I actually thought that they took the weight, like the spotters took the weight. White lights, I watched it again. I just smoked it. And that was, to me, it was kind of a catch me in a lie kind of thing, because I had not had a great bench training cycle, but I got a new shirt, the new most advanced shirt, and I hit the biggest PR ever. So for me, it was like, this is no longer just a strength pursuit. This is a mastery of your equipment, mastery of sizing and figuring out how to manipulate the gear. So for me, I went back raw, and those are the numbers I'm most proud of, but I'm proud of the whole thing, the whole evolution of it.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I know you created the cube method, which is actually how I learned about you. Weird story. I was in Djibouti, Africa on a military base doing some like troop tour things, entertainment tours, some grappling instruction and such, and was with a guy there, an EOD guy, working out in their gym, because the EOD kind of get treated their own way. They have a gym, a bow range, all this awesome stuff in the middle of a military base in Africa. And I wanted to work out with them.
Yeah.
They were doing the cube method.
Yep.
And they started talking about you. So I started looking that up, and I started following it when I got home. So if you could describe the cube method and what was the evolution of your training that led to you developing that?
So originally I started out as a strongman competitor, and it was just a difficult road for me because full-time job, just had a baby, the closest strongman gym, and really the two guys that I wanted to train with were over an hour away. So I would work a full day, drive an hour, train 2 hours, drive an hour back, and that's just not sustainable with a young child and a family and whatnot. And ended up going to powerlifting, which led me to the conjugate method, which is West Side. And eventually I was lucky enough to be invited to actually train at West Side. It's an invite-only gym. You're based on graded on your performance, and if you're not progressing, you're out. And ended up getting to go there, really train those methods hard. And what's strange to me looking back is I was doing a version of conjugate written by my original coach, Robbie Burns. And he's an older guy than I was, kind of been in the game for a long time. And he had manipulated conjugate for the bars he had, the tools that he had. And also he was just like, he just wasn't full send on like doing extra workouts. We would do extra workouts, but not like 3 a day, like the little stuff that Louis talks about. So I found that I was getting better and better and better and better. And when I went to West Side, I feel like the volume kind of beat me down, like it was a little bit more, not necessarily than I could do, but it wasn't making me progress at the rate that I thought. There was progression periods, and then there was like scale back periods where just couldn't figure out why I wasn't getting better. And life kind of took a weird turn, and, I lost some focus, felt like I was a distraction to myself, and then probably a distraction to some of the other guys. And Louis just asked me, he was like, man, you need to go get your head right. And if you get your head right, come back, kind of thing. But that's just not my mindset. I was like, no, you're giving up on me. So I went across town, trained with some guys that had trained at Westside previously. Chuck Vogelpohl, Danny Daig of Lexington Extreme invited me in and let me train. And really, I trained with Chuck for a year, which was like, he's the greatest lifter that I knew of in my generation, and really the generation before. And it was like a year of just absorption. Like I just absorbed everything he said. I tried it. I didn't necessarily get better because he was it would be like taking a sprinter and asking them to do marathons, or vice versa. And I'm a much more of a slow burn kind of guy. And Chuck was very, very high intensity all the time. So even though I learned a lot, I did get stronger in ways, probably mentally stronger the most. I didn't necessarily progress under the barbell as much as I would have thought maybe. So then a couple of guys that were semi beat up, kind of in the middle of the pack as far as in that gym, they were coming up. I just wanted to train a little differently, and I wanted to train raw. And so that when I started that, I knew I needed to adjust the volume, and I came up with the cube method, which is just a rotation of intensities. You have one heavy training day per week, one day that focuses on repetition, which is still moderately heavy, and then you have a day of speed work and a bodybuilding day. And that formula in rotation, it gives you 3 3-week waves and a 10-week cycle, with the 10th week being competition. That's why it was the cube, 3x3, 3 waves, 3 weeks at a time, 3-week cycle or 10-week cycle. And it became the cube method. And the most thing I'm proud about that, one, I became the lifter that most people probably know me for because of the cube method, but really it's a culmination of all of it. Like if I hadn't done West Side, I would have never done the stuff with Chuck. I would have never figured the things out that I did. But man, we, in one gym in Mount Vernon, Kentucky, just a small group of guys that I train with, we had 7 2,000-pound totals for men.
Holy smokes.
Or more. We had a 2,300-pound, I was a 22, and we had a couple 21s and several 2,000s. And that was just, I won't say that I was out and out programming for them, but we all kind of trained the same. I don't want to take credit for them doing the cube as far as like by the book, but we trained the same lift waves.
Yeah.
You know, the main lift had the same intensity, the same percentages and whatnot. So, you know, the proof for me was that, but then it also had a Facebook group at one time with 12,000 people, you know, and everybody was in there seemed to be doing good. The redundancy of the questions that came through, it was like, that kind of bogged me down because every person that tried it had the same questions. And even with the frequently asked questions, they were still
People
asking
skip that.
So yeah, it was just an evolution on need. Like, I always put a feeling of, I want to enjoy what I'm doing. Even if I don't get the highest, best result, if I'm not enjoying it, then I'm not getting the result of enjoyment, you know? So I kind of factored that in, and I wanted to enjoy my training, and it allowed me to do that. And in the way, or along the way, I ended up having just world-class numbers, won some very, very big competitions, a couple world titles. And yeah, it wrote itself, man. I just couldn't believe how well it did for myself and others.
If you want the absolute best protein source, then I have it for you. It's Axis Deer from my friends at Maui Nui Venison in Hawaii. It's not only the best protein source, but also the best tasting. And Maui Nui is now offering Truth Serum listeners a limited selection at my favorite cuts of venison. Remember, deer are wild, naturally organic, and grass-fed animals, so supply is always limited. So head over to mauinuivenison.com/truth. That's MAUINUI venison.com/truth and start eating deer. Half-Face Blades makes 100% American-made knives for the world's best military operators, hunters, and chefs. People who need knives to make a living or stay alive. That's why I trust them with my own everyday carry knife. So if things like buying American and high performance matter to you, head over to halffaceblades.com and throw away your cheap gas station knives. Yeah. And I know in 2014, you suffered a crazy freak injury.
Yeah.
If you don't mind, talk about that injury and the mindset that it took for you to come back from that.
Well, the injury happened because I broke protocol for my training. I'd been to Australia, won a very, very big meet, decided to stay there and do a couple seminars, came back through Mexico, had a great time there. I said party on previous podcasts, like people think party in Mexico is a different term. It was just relaxing. It was just enjoying the beach, having good food, having a good time. So I'd kind of detrained myself for about 3 weeks, and there was a big competition in LA I was invited to, and I knew I couldn't do well. So I was like, no, I can't make it. But then they started incentivizing, hey, we'll pay for your flight. We'll get you a room. We'll do this. We'll do that. And really, I still didn't want to go. Starting to feel a little bit of obligation to go, but I didn't want to. And then one of the other competitors was like, if he shows up, I'll beat him. Oh. And this is a guy who was kind of an up and comer at the time. He's become a legend in the sport in his own right, and also on the heel of my injury, one of the only guys that ever messaged me consistently, like, how are you doing? And I don't know, I'm not putting this on him, but I don't know if that was from a place of he felt some guilt because of that statement that he made about beating me. But whether or not it was that or it wasn't, he was one of the only guys that ever consistently checked on me, and like to this day, like always been super supportive of me. But I just, I tried to rush. I had 4 weeks to get ready after 3 weeks of basically no training. And that's just a recipe for disaster. I fell with a weight that I've done numerous times. I mean, it was heavy. It was 744, but I've done it hundreds and hundreds of times. And I look back now, and in Free Solo, there's a quote where Alex Honnold's talking about climbers that have passed away on the mountain. He said it's never at the threshold of like their ability. It's something that they've mundanely done over and over and over again because they're not as focused. When you're doing the biggest thing of your life, you're like, this is it, especially on a rock facing, right? But then, you know, they're just doing some easy pass and they just lose their grip or they're talking and they fall to their death. That's kind of the same way I was. I wasn't even thinking about the lift when I did it. I was already like calculating numbers for my second attempt and third attempt because I knew I wasn't my strongest. So I had to like play a different game and I wanted to do just enough to beat this other guy without setting myself backwards. So all of that is very foreign to how I normally competed. I was very methodical, very disciplined, knew my numbers ahead of time. This was just like throwing caution to the wind. Ended up hurting myself. Basically didn't retire me from the sport, but I had 19 knee surgeries. It retired my ability to be at the level that I was at. My left knee was basically every ligament, every tendon, broke my kneecap, was really, really bad, but I had 19 surgeries over 4 years. And what people don't realize most about that is when you have a surgery like that, they basically want you, because there were a lot of infection-based surgeries on the post-original, and with an infection, they want you to just rest, let the inflammation die down, so basically every surgery, I'm on my back for 3 to 4 weeks after every one. I think I figured it up over 4 years, I was on my back about 74 weeks.
Holy smokes.
And that really takes a toll on you. And what I was trying to do, because my entire existence was powerlifting at that point, I was trying to do seminars. I was trying to train and get back on the platform. I was trying to coach other people and all this stuff. And it got harder and harder and harder. And at some point, you know, my dad was just like, you gotta stop this. You can't dig this hole forever. You got to start climbing out. And really that was on the heels of kind of hitting my own personal rock bottom. Without this skill set or this ability to express my skill set, I didn't know who I was. Like, who am I if I can't be this guy? Because for so long, that was how I lifted. That's how I thought. That's how I interacted with people. That was my group of friends. That was the way that I made money. So if I walked away from that, I'm walking away from an entire life that I've lived for. And I didn't know how to do that. But eventually I just didn't want to be the guy that was like basically unable to do anything at a competitive level, but you still get the claps and the cheer. It's like the guy that hangs on to sport a little too long. I probably did in my own right hang on a little too long, but I also got to the point where I was like, I was still deadlifting 700 pounds. I benched 600 after my injury, you know, so I wasn't just fading away into oblivion, but I was a full meat lifter. I never wanted to be a guy that just did a deadlift or just did a bench press. I was a full meat lifter. And when I realized I couldn't do that, or I was going to compromise myself further to keep doing that, I had to change direction. And that was probably the hardest thing in my life, was just jumping into the ocean and trying to find a way back. Like, what am I going to do now? Who am I now? What does this life even mean? You know, because everything before was my life. Like, I told people all the time, if I lived to 50, I didn't try hard enough at powerlifting. You know, I was a 350-pound man, gorging myself every meal for performance. And like, you don't live very long at 350 pounds. But that was my mindset. If I lived to 50, I didn't try hard enough. If I lived to 51, I should have been 400 pounds instead of 350 pounds. You know, like, that was the way that I thought. But then one day I just realized, no, life is amazing. And my dad gave me a challenge point without even trying. He was just talking to me about my health. And he said, well, your grandfather and great-grandfather both died at 73. So that was the impetus for me to say, you know what? I need competition in my life and my heart. 75. If I make it to 75 after the life I've lived, that's a win. So I started getting myself in shape, started eating better, started trimming down. I've been as light as 219 since then. I'm sitting today like 240. 230 to 240 is kind of like a catch point of strength. I feel good there. I feel healthy. 219 is a little more aesthetic. Yeah. You know, 250, I got to get back on the diet plan. So, but I allow myself that luxury. I'm not dieting for any purpose other than to live. So most of the time I'm 230, 240 without even trying. If I get a little light, or I have the intention of, you know, summer's coming or going to the beach, get a little lighter, but I try not to let myself get much over 240. I just don't feel as good that way. So yeah, it everything turned around, and now my competition's life.
Or what were some of the other lessons you learned? We've talked some about kind of the industry lessons and what you learned about people during that and what you mean to people and how.
I think the biggest thing, and I've even tried to warn you this as a friend, companies love you when you're producing, and when you're not, they tend to quickly forget. And that made me very sheltered. You know, I was fortunate enough to start working with Sorinex throughout my surgeries and injuries, and that door, because Bert and the legacy of Sorinex opens a lot of doors where people want to support you and help you. And sometimes that help and support is completely genuine. And I would say of the group of people that is here at Winter Strong today, these people, that is overwhelmingly the story. But along the way, I've met a lot of guys who are like, oh, I'm coming out with this new product, and thinking that they want you to love it and just have it. They really want you to show it. And again, fair play. That's the way the world works, and that's totally fine. But I wanted the friendship and the loyalty of connection first, and then if you had a product or something that you wanted me to use, let's go that route. But above all, even if I hate your product or never talk about it, we're still friends, you know? And that was important for me to realize, because through that injury and through all those surgeries, I mean, my life and friends and everything that I did was around powerlifting. And I'm looking around as the surgeries go on and time passes, there's fewer and fewer people along the way. And part of that was me too. I was in a really bad place. I was really retracted. So no fault of those people, but it's like, man, when you're down like that, other type of people start showing up. And those people have kind of been in my life more and more since. And through Sorinex now, it's like, I know a little bit more as a professional how to navigate those relationships when something's like, when it smells a little funny to me from the front end. I just kind of keep it like, yeah, I'm already using another product that's similar or whatever, but yeah, I'd love to talk to you, you know, that kind of thing. So unfortunately, the injury kind of changed how I looked at everything, you know, for better or for worse. But I think it overall, the trajectory of my life since the injury has been extremely positive outside of a few small bad moments.
Because there are a lot of friendships that people are in that they don't even realize at the moment they're business transactions.
Oh yeah,
all it is. And it's even been a hard thing for me to learn over the years. And there's specifically one athlete I worked with at one time that, man, things were great. Like everything was good. I thought we were friends because, you know, this is my earlier days. I thought we were friends because it was going so good, and because, you know, I helped them get on the scale so easily and everything there. And then, you know, after it was done, I was just kind of dead to them. And honestly, it kind of hurt a little bit, because I'm like, man, this person's not, you know, like, it's weird. Did I do something wrong? And I remember discussing this with another fighter that I'd worked with, and that fighter had retired. And I talked to them and kind of explained, like, because they knew each other. I'm like, man, have I done something wrong? Because I really thought we were friends. And, you know, after that, it was done. And this other fighter is like, well, that's your mistake. Like, you were never friends. It was business. You were really good at your job. And they were really appreciative that you did your job well. But that's it.
I think for myself, to just kind of tip my hat as a guilt admission, is I think at times I was like, if I'm real honest with myself, I was maybe getting them like, oh, they need me, you know, or they need, and that's ego talking, right? But like, they're going to benefit from having me around, or this, that, and the other. And I think if I'm guilty of that on my end, and they're guilty of that on our end, maybe we weren't friends at all to begin with. But when you're trying to make ends meet, trying to pay your bills, and these sponsorships roll in, it's very easy to say yes, especially when you're coming up and you're not established. But sponsorship is not a paycheck, and it's performance-based, you know? So that's just a slide that you're never going to win. You know, like, you're always, as you age or as time goes by, you're never going to be better than you are at some point. And at some point, they're going to be like, hey, we can't use you anymore, you know? So I've just tried to be a little bit more respectful to myself and to the people that I work with, because I want to work with people for a long time, because I'm a good person. And if the working together is not, oh, Brandon's posting 400 pictures a year on Instagram It's no, Brandon brings value to this company because he introduced us to this guy, or he showed this person our product, or he was at a hunt camp and whatever.
Yeah.
I just want to be one. I want to be a person that makes every room better or happier, or feed people or whatever I can do to make a room feel better. But then at the same time, if I work with a company, I want to introduce people to their product organically, because I think we're in a day and age now, everybody is doing so much online. If you have somebody's attention in person and you're able to say, you know what, I use this and I like it and here's why, that will go further than a post. And companies will argue with me on that.
Yeah.
But I know it for a fact from guys like yourself. I've encouraged you to try things or do things and it's worked out, or like Ross or different people, like I want my friends to win so much that I'm going to tell them, if I believe in something, I want you to know about it. And if you have something that's better than that, tell me. Like I want to grow together. I call that the Joe Rogan effect of just like, it really is kind of a cool thing that he could be the biggest asshole in the world, but he just wants his friends to win, and that's the kind of person I want to be. Is just, I want to be someone that when I leave the room, people aren't talking shit. I'm like, glad he's gone, whatever. I want people to be like, oh man, I hate to see you go.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. And when I leave my friends, I'm always thinking about conversations that we had of how can I help them, or who can I connect them to that would help them, or anything that I can open a door to. That's the joy that I get from my job now. Cause that's kind of my job, is connecting with people, the marketing side of that. So it's funny how my life kind of needed that to get better. And then Bert saw that in me as like, man, this is a gift. Let's kind of hone in on that. And the cool thing with me, I never talk numbers about sales. I never have any product like that I go down the rabbit hole on, but I'm like, you're a Sorinex person. You should come to Sorinex. That's kind of exactly what I did to you. I was you should come here and see this place. And I'm looking for the right person to add to a group that's already really damn good.
Yeah.
It's like if you've got a pot of chili and you just start throwing everything in there, it may not be great. But if you put the right pieces in there and you get the recipe close, you might just need a pinch of salt or a little more cumin or something like that. So that's what I'm looking for in the world, is like, how do we add to this pot of this really awesome sauce we already got cooking? Yeah. We don't need much. We just need a pinch of salt. So it's finding those people that make it better. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's my job.
I like that. And you talked earlier kind of about, like, if you live to 50, you weren't going hard enough. And I know a lot of that power lifter mindset, because I remember when about my senior year of high school is when I started really diving into kind of powerlifting, because I wanted to get strong, and I would look up and I would read every magazine on it and read everything I could. And like, the guys are just pounding whole milk and eating gummies while they train and all this. And I'm wondering, like, if you've seen powerlifting make a more healthy shift, and how you see the future of powerlifting going. Is there going to be more of a holistic approach, like how we can get strong while also taking care of the body?
With all due respect, I think if you look back at the West Side days, and I mean this again with all due respect, West Side was run more like an MC, like a motorcycle club, and it was outcasts and miscreants and just, the stories are legend. And if you just want to look up some of the old time stories, just Google West Side Barbell. But it was really for the outsider, the kind of the carnival freak in a modern day society. And I think that was an appeal to me. I was a loner, as far as like, I was an individual sports guy. I played on team sports, and it always made me feel like I hated some of my teammates because they sucked. So I liked living and dying by my own performance. So it was kind of that thing, but there was not a lot of emphasis on health. I will say that. It was strong at all costs, win at all costs. And whether that looks like health or it is health are two different things. Like, we weren't looking healthy either. We looked like a big strong man, but not like a refined lifter. And I think there's some guys today, and one guy in particular, I don't think he even knows I exist, but his name is John Hack. And he has done the most, like, he is Eddie Cohn, like 2.0, but he's almost cutting numbers that are like above Eddie, at the same kind of weight class and stuff. So I have a tremendous amount of respect for John. He takes care of himself. He's jacked. He's very good shape. And I think when you have someone who is somewhat the face of a sport like that, the sport follows that face. So I've seen a lot of people getting in better shape, getting in better conditioning, and looking more like a bodybuilder or like that, mesomorph type.
Yeah.
I think that's been really cool to see. My question is, younger people want that now and not understanding the things that he has done, because he was a tested lifter for a long time. So he maximized his body before he went into open competition. And, he was very smart and meticulous then. He looked the same he did, just smaller.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that's genetics, a lot of it's training, diet, whatever. But I wonder how many kids are actually saying, I want to do it that way versus I want to take every peptide I can get my hands on. I want to take every steroid I can get my hands on. And again, not to sound like a hypocrite, like those things are just an unfortunate reality or fortunate reality of the sport. But I think people jump to that as a solution rather than an addition. And that was one of the foundations of the Q method was, here's the way it works. Learn how to breathe, drink water, get your rest in order, diet well, and take supplements. And if you have those 5 key points perfectly lined out, then let's talk about hormones. Let's talk about anabolics or whatever you might for support. But otherwise, get these 5 things in order first, because we don't know what's not working.
Yeah.
And most people can't do that. Most people can't commit to the hard things, which are really the simple things.
Exactly.
Because this is, I can put it in my body and it's over. And I think that if somebody can talk about these things honestly and with depth and consideration of people wanting to get there faster, but also cautioning, I wanted to get there faster and I burned out. Like, if you want a life of this, you got 50 years to do it. Let's just take our time. And that would be the biggest encouragement I have. If you're a younger guy, try things in the gym, train hard, eat well, take in good food, get rest, and then give it time. Like, there's no end. Like, if you hit the biggest total in the world at 45, it's still the biggest total in the world. You don't have to do it at 23. But as a young man, you want that prestige and recognition. I just think that's not being focused on enough. That's the only thing I would implement is take your time with it, make a career of it. Don't make it just a flash in the pan.
Yeah, I get that a lot with people. It's constant. People are always DMing me or asking my Q&As, or even when I come to an event like this, hey, what do you think about BPC 157? Or what do you think about
the new Tylenol?
About this? You know what?
It's the new Tylenol.
Yes. Well, I'll tell people, I'm like, okay, well, are you getting 7 to 8 hours of sleep?
Right.
Well, no. Like, could you? Like, yeah, I probably could. Are you eating like a super nutrient dense diet?
Right.
My diet kind of sucks. I'm like, do you stretch?
Right.
No, I don't really stretch. I'm like, you don't hurt because you're not taking this supplement. Right. You hurt because you're not doing all these other things that you could do.
Right.
And in fact, that supplement, unless you're ready to take it the rest of your life, like there's going to be a point of diminishing return.
Right.
And I find out with everything, people constantly like, how do you feel about TRT?
Right.
I'm pro TRT.
For sure.
Like, listen, but have you exhausted the option of just being healthy?
Right.
Like living a healthy lifestyle. Yeah. And most people just haven't.
No.
They're just looking for what they can take now,
but
hoping it fixes those.
We're conditioned that way. I mean, it's an unfortunate reality. When I've been in Europe or around, different places around the world, there's not the bombardment of just take a pill, take a pill, take a pill. Whatever's ailing you, just take a pill. Well, if you're not strong, there's a pill for that too, and like, I get it, obviously, I get it. But at the same time, with the knowledge that I have, the ups and downs with my injury and all that in between, I would just encourage people to take a step back and really enjoy this as a process. Like, if you want to be big and strong in your 40s, you're going to be a big guy on his way to being big and strong at 40s for a while. Just take your time. You're going to be lifting anyway. There's no rush to get more right now, because the one thing that people don't recognize is muscle can get stronger, bone can get denser, but ligaments and tendons take the longest time to strengthen. So if you're just pounding on, I put 50 pounds on my squat this cycle, 50 pounds on my squat the next cycle, well, at some point you didn't put 100 pounds on your ligaments and tendons, right? As far as adaptive strength, something's going to give at some point, and I'm living proof of that. Like, I don't want anyone to go through the things that I went through, like mentally, physically, whatever. 19 surgeries is not a win for anybody, So, and I've had 28 of them overall for different things, but for one body part to have 19 surgeries, but honestly, I think that was what it took to break me from that. It took something that traumatic to change the course of my life, or otherwise I would have probably still been going and been 350 pounds and dead by 50.
Yeah.
Goal achieved, right?
Yeah. Winning.
Yeah.
You know what? I blame Rocky.
Yeah.
It's like we all grew up like watching Rocky, like Rocky IV, he's going to the mountains, he's doing the hard work, and the Russians over there taking steroids and using all the science, all that. And then you grow up to realize that was not real.
Right.
Which we knew it wasn't real, but
it's also that mindset of like one more rep. Like you can always do one more rep. And like I was a guts lifter. Like I was a Dorian Yates style, blood and guts.
Oh, yeah.
Like there was no weight that could stop me. I just couldn't do it anymore. That was my goal, is like I could do anything that I wanted. There was a point where I wanted to get to that I couldn't do anymore. And that's not good.
Yeah.
That's not good to train that way every day.
Well, that's why my face is covered with scars. Like I remember like back when I would fight and people would be like, "Oh, do you think you're going to win?" Which it's always a stupid thing. Don't ever ask a fighter that one. No, I really don't.
I enjoy losing.
Yeah. But people would always be like, "Hey, how do you feel?" Like, "Oh, I'm going to win." Like, you just feel like, is this guy any good? Like, "Oh, I think he's better than me."
Yeah.
What? Well, no, I think he's better than me in almost every aspect. I just don't know how to quit.
Right.
Like he's going to eventually, and that's the truth. I won many fights just because the other guy got tired first.
Well, and that's the thing I was too in powerlifting. You have these guys that are just exceptional at one lift or two lifts or whatever. I was just well above average on all three. Yeah. I was a total guy. That's what mattered to me, because that stacked you, somebody, and again, not knocking anyone, but if someone's like, this guy's the number 3 bench presser of all time, that's impressive as hell. But that to me doesn't ring the same as that's the 3rd best powerlifting total of all time. Yeah. Because that's one lift on one day. I wanted to be a guy that had a track record of, I put up big numbers every time, consistent numbers. I play a strategy of knowing exactly what I'm capable of. I mean, most of the competitions I came within 2.5 or 5 kilos of what I believed I was potential that day. But those adjustments were made to secure a total or a win. So I would give up 5 kilos. I'm not like, why are you going to break the camel's back if 5 kilos less will let you win? So I always stayed on that track of do what you need to do to be the best that you can be today. Adjust your second or third deadlift according to what you need to win the day. Everything else was pre-planned, but I knew, and it was pretty close. Like the 843 squat, I believed I could probably squat about 845. And 843 made me really think about what was going on whenever I was coming up. I mean, it was a good lift, but it was like, 845 might not have been there. So I'm glad it was 843 for the kilos. But yeah, it was, that's just the way I always operated. I never thought outside of myself. I didn't care if a guy was squatting 1,000 pounds for an opener, he's got to squat it. And if he doesn't, and that's what happened at the big meet that kind of gave me a break, the backyard meet of the century at Mark Bell's meet, some heavy hitters there. And I think, one, it was the biggest live stream at the time for a powerlifting event, and guys wanted to get their name out there and show their best. And I was like, I'm going to open up light, get in the meet, make sure I finish, not embarrass myself. Because Mark had said Brandon's coming out here for last place. Like, said that was my motivation the whole time.
Mark said that.
Yeah, he was like, he got this hick from Paint Lick coming out here for last place. And I just decided that I will not lose, or I will not get last place. So I opened up light on all 3 lifts, and then my seconds from first to seconds were a little bit bigger jump, and then my thirds were with, this is the potential that you can reach. If I knew then, which I squatted 826, I thought 830 was my kind of like my best potential. If I thought, well, I'm going to squat 845 just because that's an arbitrary number, all the math of my training told me that 830 would be a good lift. So I took 826. My bench press, all the lifting told me that 575 would be a good bench. I benched 573. All my training told me that 800-ish pounds would be a good deadlift. I needed 804 to get the 1,000 kilo total, and to beat Eric Lillibridge. And Eric's a phenomenal lifter, no disrespect. And that's where it came down to 804.7. And I knew that I was right around that 800 mark, but I'd also conserved some energy for my other 2 lifts. And I only took 2 bench presses that day, which I think was a major factor in my ability to go on and have extra juice in the can for the 3rd deadlift. I pulled it successful lift, won the meet, and that kind of changed the trajectory of everything. Because on paper, I was destined for last place, but I won the meet because I played my game and I watched mistakes others made, and I just stayed very, very to myself.
Take that, Mark.
Take that, Mark.
So we're going to make a shift now to talk about what may be your most passionate thing, and how I know you. A lot of the powerlifting stuff I know, but I know you as Brandon the Hunter.
Yeah.
And a lot of people now know you as Brandon the Hunter.
Yeah.
And just talk about when you started hunting and why you're so passionate about hunting.
So I started hunting like most people did when they were a kid, and hunting as in nothing to do with horns or anything like that. It was, we'll drive around, and if we see a doe, we'll shoot a doe, get some meat. It was never a trophy aspiration. There were never buckhorns or anything like that. There were, like some families, that's your tradition. Yeah. It's like, you're talking about the rut and this kind of, I didn't know any of that when I was a kid.
Especially in Appalachia.
Right. I didn't know. So we just shot does, and it was a 15-minute hunt, drive around, sit on the back of the bed of the truck, shoot a doe, and you're done. Like, hunting's easy.
Oh, yeah.
But after I got hurt, it was honestly, and I give him credit, Cam Haynes really motivated me a lot. And I got connected with him fairly early on, behind the scenes on the internet. I think he had like 112,000 followers.
Wow.
When I started talking with him. And man, just seeing him run every day and be successful in the woods, I thought, man, I can do a mile. And I hadn't walked a mile in years because of the lifting and then my injury. So I was like, I wonder if I can walk 1 mile. So I walked a mile, and I walked away from my truck. So I was like, well, I got to walk a mile back. But I was instantly like, jog it as much as you can jog. If you can jog 10 steps, that's 10 more steps than you jogged walking out here. So I basically kind of like probably 20-minute jogged a mile back to my truck. And then the next day, I was like, I'm going to walk or jog a 5K. So I did that. And the next day I was like, I'm going to walk or jog 7 miles. And I did that because mentally I was like, I can just put one foot in front of the other. If it takes me 24 hours, I'm going to finish it. So that really kind of helped me get my focus. Cause when I fixate on a goal, I fixate on a goal. And, I just dedicated to the walking and the jogging. And then it was like, well, eat a little better, start hiking. Don't just do flat ground, do hikes. And then it was like, well, carry a pack, start rucking. Then that led into meeting Chino out here. And he was like, come out. Here's your goal. You come out west and hunt mule deer with me. You better be in shape for it. So I lost like 40 pounds, like just like that. Cause I went crazy to get into it. So I owe Big Chino a lot for that inspiration. And him and his family has just been they probably solidified my passion for hunting, because even though it's their business and their livelihood, they did it in such a way that was like really special to me, and like feeling almost like they gave me a chance to learn from them. It'd be like a master in anything saying, hey, come over here and learn from me. Yeah. So I felt like I owed it to them. So I just doubled down and just started going harder and harder. Bert encouraged me and gave me the opportunity to do some things, but it really, really changed how I look at everything. I wanted to kill my own food. I wanted to process the food. I wanted to make the food, everything just kind of full circle. And it was all around being outside and being healthy. Like that was the genesis of it. Is like most of my life I was in a stinky, sweaty gym and not healthy. Yeah. I wanted to be outside doing something positive for my life and something that made sense to me in a full, life and death, full circle spectrum. And hunting it blew my mind. And when I got into archery side of things, I was still in college shooting a bow, hunting, but not really hunting. And then I met Chino and they got me motivated. I met some other guys. They helped me with the whitetail stuff. And then when I transitioned to the traditional archery recurve, that's when I just went full bore. And it was like, okay, I found the lightning for my veins. This is what I want to do. It's so difficult. It's so challenging. But that's the same thing. I left geared lifting, which would be essentially the compound version. There's assistance to your capability, right? There's pins. There's all this other stuff that help you be better. Powerlifting gear helped you be better. So I wanted to strip myself down raw lift as I am, just a belt. That's how I am with the bow too. I'm the same person that wanted that next level challenge, because not that I'd mastered it or was the greatest in the world, but I knew I could do it. And I knew that that bow made me better than I was at times. The recurve, you are never better than that recurve. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because one slip of your finger or one little tick off and you miss. But with a compound, there's a lot of compensating factors that can kind of save you. I just need, what I've really understood about myself is I need a high demand to enact discipline. If it's something that I can just casually do over and over and over again without much effort, I will become worse. But if it is something that I have to stay on top of and dedicate to, I always get better and rise. So it's really kind of a cheat code for discipline for me. The harder something is, the crazier it will drive me and the more I will work at it. So that's what I try to do now, is just focus on the recurve.
My thing, what I've noticed with recurve, because as you know, I started hunting mostly recurve a couple years ago. I found my papa's old bow that I used to play with.
Oh, yeah, I remember.
Oh, yeah, and I'd contacted you, and a friend of mine, Nate Caslow, he's up in Illinois, and he hunts a lot of recurve, and I was just seeing these bucks he was killing, and he just was telling me how awesome the recurve was and all of this. He didn't tell me how horrible it can be. But he made it look really fun. And so I started practicing a little bit and realized I'm missing things. Contacted you, even came up to visit you, and we worked on the recurve. And since then I've primarily hunted recurve. But what I like about it is I tell people with compound, and we both feel the same way. I know, like, hunting is hunting. I don't care what you use.
Yeah. If it's legal, I'm down with it.
Yes, do it. But for me, rifle hunting it's just not as fun for me.
Yeah.
So therefore, if I need meat and I'm meat hunting, I'll take a rifle out. I'll take whatever. But if I'm really wanting the challenge of a hunt, rifle hunting for me it's not that fun for me, simply because I've been hunting since I was a little kid. I live in Appalachia. I was raised with a gun in my hand.
Right.
It became no longer a challenge.
Right.
And the same thing. I wanted a challenge. And what I like about the recurve, so with a compound, I always say you tune your bow.
Yeah.
With a traditional bow, you tune yourself.
Yeah.
And the thing about it is, you can do everything perfect. So you are in full control, but once the arrow leaves, you have no control.
Yeah.
The the animal is in full control, and it might do everything wrong to help you get that shot.
Yeah.
And there's something beautiful about that, and there is something absolutely frustrating about that, because I did it this year. Down in Texas, I took a great shot.
Yeah.
Like, I felt good about it. Everything about it. It hit right where I was aiming, but 4 inches too high, because the deer went.
Yeah, right.
The deer
It dropped down.
I did everything right.
Yeah.
But the deer did not react the way I needed that deer to react. And there's something frustratingly beautiful about that.
It is. But you know what, man? It's like, I kind of watched somebody that was hunting. I'm sorry. I watched, I have that feeling and understanding, but I watch a lot of Nature is Metal. I watch a lot of those like animals in the wild and all this kind of stuff. And I was watching one, and dude, this cheetah was chasing an impala, running it. And you can see the cheetah starts to break this way, and the impala kind of turns left, and then he bolts right, and the cheetah had too much speed. The impala got away. That's the same kind of thing for me. I am never going to be a better hunter than that cheetah, but he missed, so that gave me the freedom to miss. Like, not in the way that I'm striving for that, but dude, that thing eats with its face and lives and dies by its moves, and it missed, right? So, I imagine he goes back to cheetah camp and everybody's giving him shit because you didn't even get that impala. But the fact of the matter is, the greatest hunters alive miss. Yeah. Like, we talk about hunters as in humans. We don't hold a candle to a wolf or a tiger or a cheetah or a lion or anything. We're terrible. That's why we need bows. That's why we need guns. We are terrible hunters. They still miss. And I think if you can process that, then it becomes a beautiful thing, because it's like, what does that cheetah do? Goes in the shade for a minute, licks himself off, and gets right back up there and does it again. So that's kind of the way I view it. I told you I missed in Texas. And I think one of the things that I appreciated that you said was, you thought I never missed. And I definitely have been, I would say I've had more success with less misses than I might have expected with the recurve. But there have been times with the recurve where I thought, I am absolutely going to make a perfect shot. I had that doe in Texas. I told you.
Yeah.
She was so skittish, so cracked out of her mind. I shot for a drop. So this is a perfect example. You didn't shoot for a drop.
No.
I shot for a drop. Yours moved. Mine didn't move a hair. Not one hair on this doe's head or body flinched. And it went right under her belly. So I was 4 inches too low with the expectation of her behavior. But dude, I got back out, kept hunting, and ended up getting a great deer this year. Had a successful year overall. But man, I probably missed 4 shots in Australia when I was there. Missed a warthog when I was in Africa. So I mean, I probably had 3 times the success that I had misses, but I missed probably 5, 6 shots this year, but probably killed, 18 to 20 animals. So most of that like pigs and stuff, but like nevertheless, I love that feeling of if I can miss, then it's honest.
Yeah.
If I know I'm not going to miss, I'm not giving that thing a fair play.
You talked about Cam Hanes earlier, and one of the things I love about Cam Hanes and how it helped me and has helped hunting altogether is when I first started hunting was known, there was no health aspect to it. In fact, like most hunters were kind of overweight guys.
Kind of a running joke, Elmer Fudd, right?
Yeah, yes. Drinking, smoking, going out there. That was kind of the thing. And here's Cam Hanes, the lift, run, shoot.
Yeah.
Who like hunting is what he does, but he's a strong dude. He's a fit guy. And he took all of that and put that into the same package and started building this community of people, kind of like the Sore Necks Winter Strong. This community of people who shared all those interests. Like we're fitness oriented people and we also hunt because that hunting allows us to secure the healthiest meat on the planet.
For sure.
But we also need to live that lifestyle that allows us to do that the most, ethically and safely. And I do think Cam has been one of the biggest influence, if not the biggest influence in creating this new culture I see of people wanting to learn how to hunt because they see it as a healthy lifestyle choice.
Well, I think that Cam has brought more people into bow hunting. There are other big names that help people once they're in, but Cam, gets them in the door of bow hunting. Even Rogan, like I know Rogan's influence is massive and Rogan loves it, but who influenced Rogan?
Yeah.
Cam.
Yeah.
Right. So Cam by proxy, still probably the reason that hunting has exploded, still the reason that a lot of people are upset about the growing numbers and pressure in hunting. But man, if it's something that I never want to say I deserve to hunt and that person doesn't. It's hard. It's getting harder. Land is getting less and less. Populations of animals are getting, damaged by fires or wolves or whatever it is. So yes, it is getting harder. But that for me, as the kind of person I am, it's like, okay, challenge accepted. Do you want to be a hunter because there's animals everywhere? Or do you want to be the hunter that will find an animal no matter what? And that's what I'm trying to become. That's why I dedicated to that public land spot this year. Always a step behind. I killed one out there last year, public land. So I thought I'll go back out there and do the same thing. Well, this year humbled me right back down and I saw blood on the leaves from other people. So I know they were getting it done. And like I told you before, for 1 second, that was like so frustrating. But then it was like positive because it said, no, somebody was out here this morning in the area that I've been hunting and they were successful. Get back out there, get off your little crying pad, get back out there and do it. So that's where I'm at with it, is just always trying to find whatever the challenge is. Like if killing a whitetail was my only goal, I had options to go kill a whitetail. I wanted to kill a whitetail the way that I wanted to kill a whitetail, which was on public ground with my recurve, chasing sign, following track. And I got so close. Like we got so close so many times, but just didn't get it done. And guess what? There's a lot of reality to that in everyday life. You can try super, super hard, do all the right things and still fail. That's why I love it so much, because it's honest. You're not going to get rewarded unless everything falls into play. The animal has to make a mistake. You can't make one. Yeah.
Yeah, again, they were born for it.
Yeah.
And it's something we've devolved.
I was going to say, we were born for it at one time. And I think it's all still in there. You just got to rewire those synapses to think like that and feel like that. Because I noticed as the season went on and it kind of got into like an insanity level of dedication, it was like I noticed I smelled better. Like I smelled things better. I heard better. Felt like my vision sharpened. And I'm not even joking about that. You know, I'm about to be 43 years old and I thought those things would diminish, but it's like when you're dependent upon those things, it's like they sharpen.
Yeah.
We don't need them in everyday life. So I don't think our body gives them preference. You know, just like an antler's growth for a deer. If they got an injury, that deer antler is not going to grow because it's going to shuttle nutrients to the problem. If we don't use our tools, I think they diminish. So like that's why they say do Sudoku to keep your cognitive level up. Well, you're stimulating your brain. Well, when I'm hunting the way that I hunt, you're stimulating your sight, you're stimulating your sound, your smell, all those things. So it's kind of funny how over the season I felt like I was actually getting better.
Yeah.
In those fronts. It's really weird.
I have a theory too. As we're closing here, I have a theory. I'd love to see like a study done on it. It'd be almost impossible to do like a human clinical study on this. But I swear, I think hunters suffer less from seasonal depression.
Oh, I think so too, because you're outside in the elements. Like
vitamin D, you're getting the fresh air.
I think, dude, I think the air part of it is such a big deal because I can remember a couple times being in the stand or being in the ground and just sitting there and like taking a breath and recognizing how good the air was, like how clean it was and how good it felt cold. You know, like it's not I don't think about my breath very often, but it was like in that moment I was like, and it was just so cold and it was so good. Like that kind of thing. I know it's hippy dippy, but it really, I don't think you can be, if you love hunting or you just love being outside, I don't think seasonal depression is a thing because you're doing what you want to be doing. If you're depressed doing what you want to be doing, go talk to somebody. Yeah. You know,
it's. I was having this conversation with someone here yesterday. It's church.
Yeah,
I mean, it's literally, and I go to church. I go to a formal church building, but it's like you're not going to get closer to God in a building. I know people say I go to church to be closer to God.
Yeah,
and I feel that. And again, I do go to church, but I feel that in the woods. That is God's creation.
God's creation, man.
I mean, everything you are surrounded, nothing man-made except what you have on you and what's in your hand.
Exactly.
I mean, so I do think there's a spiritual connection there that you're receiving the things that are good for you because you are in the purest form of creation.
Well, if you just sit there and you have a slow sit, you watch the squirrels and you watch the diligence that they run around and they play and they scrap for food and they're doing this and doing that. And then you watch the birds. It's just it's like you forget, man, none of the things that I'm stressed about matter. You know, like not that this matters more than paying a bill or whatever, but it's like we got off track somewhere as people. Like we have an amazing level of society and comfort and all these things, but most of the stress comes from the house and the car and this and this and this and this. When I'm out there, I'm not forced to be stressed. I'm able to watch other things in their environment, learn about the environment, look at the trees, staging the wind, which way is the wind blowing, where's a good spot to sit, where's a good spot to view. Like you're just thinking in a different way that I think is very, very harmonious with the human experience, for generations. What we're living now, like I'm still trying to learn the curves keep coming, just trying to keep up with the trends and all that kind of stuff and stay ahead of it. But in that way, when you get out in the wood, time slows down, you slow down, and I think your brain actually does some good in that time because we're just receivers now. How much information do we receive to the amount that we can calculate? Way more than we can.
Yeah.
But out there, you got all the time to process and reflect and think. And I think that's such a valuable part of it. I think more than the sunshine and the wind or the air, that's why you don't get depressed because you're actually able to think. You're actually able to just quiet your mind and still. At least that's what I feel.
No, I agree. I've told my wife, I was like, hey, God, God forbid when I'm old, which I hope I'm old when I do pass, but if I'm old, if I'm connected to things when I'm going, like, if I go before her, I'm like, if I'm about to go, disconnect me from everything and let me see the sunrise from the woods one more time.
Yeah.
Like that to me, that is the most peaceful moment ever. And every hunter knows that moment when you get out there 30 minutes, 60 minutes before the day opens up and you literally see the day open. You see the mist start to form. You hear the animals, like this synchrony, and you hear them the different levels. You hear the bugs at first, and then you start to hear the owls, then you hear the birds, then you hear the squirrels, and hopefully you start to see the deer.
Yeah, right.
But everything starts happening in a pattern, and the day literally opens, and you see every aspect of that. It's
do you
beautiful.
know that the birds sing at a certain frequency that causes the pores on plants to open up to
I
receive
didn't know that. Wow.
to receive the light and to receive the moisture from the dew? Like, there's a guy that actually, Google this. He found out what the frequency was, and he played it on speakers over his corn, had record corn growth.
Whoa.
But it's like that frequency. But nature is so harmonious, and like, if those birds didn't sing, that's why the world wakes up and literally opens up with the birds singing. You know? So just the little idiosyncrasies and things of nature like that are just amazing to me. And to get there and be able to understand it, see it, and then, like, how does that apply to me?
Yeah.
Am I a part of this balance? And the reason I'm feeling a certain way because I'm trying to go against that balance.
Yeah.
You know, so sometimes it recalibrates you a little bit when you see I'm just a part of a system. I'm a part of a bigger system that I don't understand. I feel better when I do these things. I feel worse when I do these things. Do more of the good things, you know, and that's what I'm trying to do with hunting. Hunt how it makes me happy, hunt how I feel rewarded, and hunt so I get my ass kicked a bunch.
Yeah. Well, hey man, we could sit here and talk for hours. We have so much common interest.
Yeah, for sure.
And I have a lot of love and respect for you, but we are at Winter Strong, and there's a million cool things to do. So we'll wrap it up. I'm sure there'll be a part 2.
Anytime, man. I'd love to.
Man, thanks for your time.
Thank you for everything. I appreciate your friendship, man.
I want to thank you guys for watching, and also a word of thanks to our sponsors who have made this episode possible. All I ask is that you guys please hit the like and subscribe button, as it helps the podcast grow, and so we can continue to bring on some great guests for you guys. I'll see you in the next one.